Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to the School of Science. My name is Luke and today we're going to be talking about the potential starting lineup for Everton for the 2022-23 season. Now, granted, we haven't finished all of our signings, we've still got 2 or 3 more that are actually going to be coming through the woodwork. So this is more of a hypothetical on almost the worst case scenario, and we'll say all the signings are stopped pretty much from now till January when the window opens next, where I'm going to do a review of this. But if we get significant amounts of signings, let's say we get 3 signings or 2 signings who I think will make the starting lineup pretty much from the word go, this will be revised and there will be a link up on the top left. Well, my top left, so your top right. That will actually show you to the updated video where this will be corrected. So there's going to be a lot of contention. I'm going to go from area to area, and we'll discuss who goes where, why, and how I think it will benefit, and whether we actually need to change it for cup competitions against harder opposition, or just different opposition that have a funny way of playing. We can actually discuss them at a later date, or a later part of this video, and we can actually think how we're going to rearrange and how we would shift around. Now, bear in mind, footballers never play at 100%. This is something that quite a lot of people don't seem to understand. So when you start a football game, you are never at 100%. You're always at around 75 to 80% at the best. Now, this is mostly down to the fact that when they do training up till the day before, no, not the day before, 2 days before the match. They do training before then. They work to the absolute bone every single game, every single training session. They basically slog the guts out from the word go. So they're always in that small form of fatigue. There's always a little tiny bit of fatigue laying in the background of them when they go into a game, unless they're coming back from, say, an injury or anything along those lines. You have a little bit more pep about them, so it's around 85 to 90%, but they are never at 100%. So always bear that in mind when you're watching a game. I will say that because they're never at 100% perfectly, and some of them do carry injuries, because I believe Alan himself was actually carrying a hernia in the last few games for Everton, which is why he was basically around 50 to 60% of his true potential when he was playing at that time, which is a terrible shame, really. I admire him for doing that, but he needed to try and take a step back and say, look, I'm injured, and we have got youth. This is one thing I will be doing as well. I will be looking to try and utilise a few more younger players in our squad. Now, these aren't going to be complete and utter unknowns. These are going to be guys you are going to be familiar with. But just bear that in mind when I'm doing this lineup, because this is purely my opinion. This isn't going to be Everton's guaranteed lineup, and everyone does have opposing opinions. Now, the setup we're going to be going for will be a 3-2-2-1-1. Now, I'm not sure whether that actually adds up. So 3, 2, so 5, 2, 7, 1, 1. Yeah, that should add up, hopefully. But yeah, I'll count them up and make sure we've got 11, just so we're not waltzing out with either 10 men or 12 men. But in all fairness, when Everton's got the fans behind them, we've always got a 12th man. Okay, so first things first, we're going to be talking about goalkeepers. Now, we've got 2 choices of goalkeepers, sensibly. These are Jordan Pickford and Asmir Begovic. Now, Begovic, I like the guy. Good, decent keeper. Anytime he's playing, you look at the back line, they're actually quite relaxed and quite settled, and they're willing to sort of listen to him. Jordan Pickford, he's a brilliant keeper. He will stop anything with any part of his body, including his face, especially his face when it comes to Chelsea. And he's just got that, he is the next level of goalkeeper, and he is quite literally England's best goalkeeper at this point in time. He's not the world's best, unfortunately. That goes down to a few different keepers, the likes of Alisson, Edison. There's quite a few, Mendy as well. There's quite a few goalkeepers that are better than him, I will hold my hands up and say, but he is definitely on the pedestal as one of the best out there right now. So that is why he makes my goalkeeper. Now, in terms of defence, I've been thinking about this. We could do a 3-man defence, we can do a 5-man defence, we can do a 4-man defence, we can do a 6-man defence if needs be. Now, if we're doing a 6-man defence, we might as well just park the team bus right on the pitch, because that's essentially what we're doing. But in the situation with the average team that we take on around the time of the Premier League, so anyone pretty much from last season's 6th in the table all the way down to, say, 17th. That is what I would call the average football team. Anywhere in between there, with a couple of outliers here and there along that table, with the likes of, say, not West Ham, the likes of Arsenal, Man U, anyone along those sort of lines. Now, I'm trying to remember the Premier League table from last year whilst talking on the fly. My head is an absolute mess when it comes to trying to do these sorts of things. So for the likes of, let's say for argument's sake, Newcastle, they're one of those sorts of teams where you've got to try and change the tactics a little bit. When you come to the likes of Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, now that they got Richarlison, definitely Spurs, we're going to need to change the formation and actually be a little bit more solid around the back and try and make almost two lines of defence to make it almost impossible for them to break down. But I'm rambling on here. So who are my defenders? Now for this one, I'm going to be doing three. So my first one would be Mason Hallgate. Now you're probably thinking, why Mason Hallgate? He's erratic. He's got his head up his arse and all that lovely stuff. Quite frankly, he's young, he's learning. And under the likes of James Tarkowski, I think he's going to actually have the potential to be a really good defender. Now, here's the thing. A lot of our defenders, if you've watched an Everton game, you know for a fact, under the likes of Moyes, our defenders worked as a solid unit. You always had the likes of Phil Jagielka working with Sylvain Distin, working with Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman. They always communicated with one another. They had a decent relationship with one another and they were intercommunicatable. So when you, let's say for argument's sake, when Lescott left us, he wasn't as good with Man City as he was with Everton. Let's be honest here. He was probably about 75% of the finished product, and that was down to the fact that he had a back line that he was able to trust and communicate with. Now, when he went to Man City, that was a bit of a different situation. Likewise with Jack Rodwell. When he went to Man City, he was basically a fish out of water, just to the fact that he had other midfielders and his defence who were providing with him wide balls that he could utilise to come in and actually score. He was a very talented young English player who had his team around him to make him even better. Now, granted, he was a good player, but he was not an amazing player. The team that we had made him an amazing player, and the leadership that was around there at the time under the likes of Phil Neville and everything. Now, granted, Phil Neville wasn't an amazing player, but he knew how to organise a team. So when you have a leader, you need someone who knows how to organise and they're able to dictate how to play. So that's why James Tarkowski is my middleman. Now, I've went from basically talking about Mason Hallgate straight into James Tarkowski. How I've done that, I've got no idea. But for our final defender, we need someone with pace, young, and has pretty much come through the Everton... Actually, has he come through the Everton system? Yes, he has. The player I'm thinking about has come through the Everton system, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a young lad, he's great. He came in initially when we had basically had no other defenders and we needed someone to sort of fall in. And since then, he's been in and out of the main squad fairly infrequently. Now, you probably already know what I'm thinking about. And to be honest, I couldn't think of any other defender that we could use as a centre-back. Now, granted, you could use Yerry Mina, you could use Michael Keane if he stays. And to be quite frank though, Michael Keane, he's got an error game in him. And I think in his situation, if he does stay with Everton, he'd have to be a substitute. He'd have to be a persistent substitute. So let's say if Mason Hallgate wasn't up for the task or was making too many errors, you'd swap him out for Michael Keane. Or if the lads I'm thinking about right now, if he was in the similar situation, if he's injured or anything like that, Michael Keane would fall into the role and do well there. Now, you've probably got to figure this out, so I'm going to stop rambling. It is Branthwaite. Now, you probably noticed some numbers are getting bigger. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm terrible when it comes to writing on whiteboards. I mean, in all fairness, I was thinking of doing this virtually, so like having just like the blank wall here and doing it like that, but I like the whiteboard. I do like the whiteboard. Okay, so that is our defensive line. Why is it like that? This is just more to the fact that three defensive midfielders can control this back line and we can actually push a little bit higher up the field because we're going to have a left wing back and a right wing back. You probably already know who I'm thinking of, but these guys as wing backs pushing up as well as the defence pushing up, it makes it a lot harder for opposition to break down. Now, granted, when you do something like this, you need someone who needs to be sitting behind the other two defenders and making sure, almost like a sweeper. So you need to make sure if someone does a long ball to try and do a counter on us, they are fast enough to get back and do the defensive duties that they need to do. Let's say either put it back to Pickford, get the ball, get it under control and launch it straight back up and try and get into the opposition's 18-yard box. It would be one of the critical ones as well. Now, This is how I feel about with the defensive line. We need to actually have a defensive line that's solid, they communicate, and they're able to push up as well. What we don't want anymore is the silly play where players are playing for their own individual stats. So you probably heard this from Toffee TV, and it was something I was actually thinking about myself. So when I say that, if you look at the likes of Morgan Schneiderlin, so he was never a risky sort of player. What he did is he had the ball. If he couldn't see a pass, he would pass it backwards or pass it sideways. They did basically what was inoffensive football. It was just passing around the sides, passing back, and just keeping possession. Now, the reason he did that is more for their own individual stats. It was pretty much a situation where they were saying, it was a bad game, but look at my stats. I didn't do anything wrong. My passes were 90% accurate. I didn't lose anything. I didn't make any errors that led to goals. That's how they were thinking about it. So what we need to think now is to try and scrap that system and think of individual stats and think of as a whole. Which is why when it comes to the midfield, my defensive midfielder is going to be Ben Godfrey. Now, Ben Godfrey can work in two different facets. So let's think for argument's sake, we've got a team that loves to do counter-attack football. We've got them on the high press. They try and counter. You're going to have Ben Godfrey near the halfway line alongside the defenders, or just in front of the defenders, who is an absolutely blisteringly fast player. He's pretty much on par with what Jagielka was like in his prime. Now, if you're not aware, Jagielka was actually, when Jagielka was at his prime, he was the fastest player in the Premier League. It's a weird one, I'll be honest. When I heard the fact, I was like, no, he's not the fastest. He couldn't have been. But looking back on it, he was. When it came to counter-attack football, he was always the guy that was blitzing it past everyone else to get back to try and stop the play. But yeah, I'm rambling again, sorry. So with Ben Godfrey, I think he's more suited to a number 6 role in our current situation than he is as a defender. Just for the fact that he is fast, he's a very progressive sort of player. He likes to pass forward more than he likes to pass sideways and backwards. If you've ever seen him passing sideways, he does it begrudgingly, honestly. You can see it in his mannerisms. If he's not having a good game, you will go sideways, but that's more down to the fact that was what previous managers were saying. It was keep possession, don't concede sort of thing. But in this situation, I'm thinking Ben Godfrey is a brilliant number 6 for what we've got at the moment, because we don't have a natural number 6. Alan is not a natural number 6. He's a more number 8 sort of player. He plays the number 6 role begrudgingly, but he is more of a bruiser number 8 who you would have further up the field here, where if, let's say, they look like they're about to go on a counter-attack or anything like that, he will willingly give away a foul to stop that play. But yeah, I'm rambling. Now, we need left wing-backs and wing right-backs. So for my left wing-back, it's pretty blatantly obvious. It's Vitaly Mykolenko. Now, we have got Niels Nkuku back, who is going to be a great second-in-command for Vitaly Mykolenko. What I'm thinking is most likely going to happen is Mykolenko is probably going to take the sidelines in cup competitions for Niels Nkuku, just for the fact that Nkuku, what his normal style was, is you bring it up and cut inside. Whereas Mykolenko likes to do it just pretty much up that left wing, control the left wing. He controls the left side of the field, no problem. So that's one of the areas where we've got an extra sort of line of options as well. So if, let's say for argument's sake, Mykolenko's just not having the time of his life. He's gone up against a right winger or a forward who's basically got him in his back pocket. Then in that situation, you bring Niels Nkuku in, who's got a slightly different play style, but has different assets that he can use to get around said opposition. Now, with the 5 substitution rule, we are going to struggle this year. I'm going to say that, unless we get the 3 extra players that we need. Which is why I'm resorting to having a number 6 that is formerly a defender. Now, in terms of a right wing back, I'm going to be going with Nathan Patterson. Now, a lot of you people are probably thinking, why not Seamus Coleman? Seamus Coleman's a good defender. He's still a great defender. Yes, but he's 33 nearly. He's in the terms of football sort of situation, he's almost a veteran close to retirement. Now, don't get me wrong, Seamus Coleman has got a great role still to play in the club. He is still a motivator of the club. He wears the heart on his sleeve. You see the passion he has for this club. Like, he is the last of a very good era of football for Everton. The likes of Mikel Arteta, Tim Cahill, Nikita Jelavic, who else? Who's a good one? Tim Howard. Sorry, I'm forgetting Tim Howard then. Phil Jagielka, Sylvain Distin. It was an era of football that was something I was proud of. Marwan Fellaini as well. I almost forgot about Fellaini. But yeah, Seamus Coleman, he's going to be coming as a super sub. So let's say, for argument's sake, Nathan Patterson, he's been bombing it up and down the field all day long, and let's say we've got a game midweek. You would say, okay, Patterson, you're going to play 60% of this game today, so 60-minute mark. We're going to bring you off. Coleman's going to come on. He's going to fill your role for the last bit. And from there, it would just be a situation of just doing that whenever we've got midweek games. Because Coleman, when he's got 30 minutes or 35 minutes to play, he will absolutely slog his guts out for those few minutes just to make sure if we've got a lead, we keep the lead, or if we're currently drawing, we are pushing for that win. Okay, so far, you've got 7 players here. These guys are going to be the fundamentals of your defence and partially of your attack. So where's the attacking sort of aspect in the middle of the field? Now, this one I've been thinking about quite a lot, actually. So how I would think we could do it is having 2 attacking midfielders. So you're going to have Abdoulaye Doucouré and Dele Alli. Now, these two have got different sorts of styles when it comes to attacking. Dele Alli can pick a pass out from easily 30, 40 yards. He knows the right cross, he knows the right pass. He's got a footballing brain that is unparalleled in the Premier League. He's come back to training and he has absolutely bombed it through all the fitness training, all the fitness programs and everything, and the fitness tests at Finch Farm. He's done brilliant through them. He has come back in the best physical condition of his life. So when the season ended, chances are he's been in the gym, he's been doing everything he can to make himself the best player possible. Now, in terms of Abdoulaye Doucouré, he's a lot more direct. So he can pick a pass, don't get me wrong, he knows the pass when he can see it, but he's a lot more straightforward. So if he sees a chance to go a goal, he's going for goal. If anyone has remembered the FA Cup game against Tottenham Hotspur, the 5-4 victory for Everton, when the famous Carlo Ancelotti moment, you know, here we are celebrating, he's just doing one of those. That was down to Abdoulaye Doucouré. He came on, he was on there, and he just basically was able to cut the defence in half with just a nice quick bit of pace, just straight through and on goal. And that's something that we do need. I'm going to actually have to bring them back because we've got a couple more players to put up there. Now, you're looking at this and you're probably thinking, okay, Luke, there's a left wing back, right wing back, that's great. Where's the width going to be? In all fairness, I feel like the youth of Vitaly Mykolenko and Nathan Patterson makes up for that. Granted, they are not true, they're not going to be true wingers in that aspect, but in terms of how we're playing in a footballing aspect, we need to look into it in a sense where we need to start coming middle bound, because last season that was our weakest point. The heart of our defence was essentially like a paper mache cup. It was hollow. It had nothing to it. And this is where the 3 midfielders come into it. We need 3 midfielders desperately. So a defensive midfielder and 2 normal central midfielders is perfect for how our squad's going to be. Now, this one is up for debate. I'm thinking in this sort of situation where Anthony Gordon can come into it, because watching him play recently, he is the sort of player that he's definitely mobile when it comes down to it. When we had him playing on the left wing against Liverpool, for 90 minutes, he was basically up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and he actually scared the right side of Liverpool's squad. He was one they were struggling to contain. It was very difficult for them to hold him off, and he was just up and down, up and down, up and down constantly. Now, granted, he was doing the same when he was on the floor as well. He was up and down, but that's beside the point. He needs to get that out of his game as well. We need to stop the diving bullshit. That needs to go out of the game as soon as possible. But what I'm hoping could work, and now this is purely experimentational, it's a big experiment that I think would be worthwhile looking into when we go into the US and play Minnesota and Arsenal, and that is having him as a false 9. Now, as a false 9, he works rather well. He's fast, and in all fairness, I think he could have a good eye for goal when he's given the opportunity. Now, he just needs to get out of his own head though, because what I have noticed is he does make that one touch too many, which can be a problem. Now, as a false 9, he'll be playing right behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin if we don't sell him. But being right behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it just means what will happen is, let's say for argument's sake, Vittori's brought it up here. He's put a cross in. Calvert-Lewin tried to get a head on it, and the keeper or a defender has nodded it out. Ben Godfrey will be hovering around the edge of that box, and he'll try and pick it up and just have a quick crack, just straight hit. Because let's be honest, you get it first time, it puts a lot of people on the back foot. Your defenders, if they see a first hit, they're not going to be able to react quickly enough to either block it or intercept before you've just launched off your foot. If you take it and try and control, it's a lot more difficult for you to... It's a lot difficult to try and get that final shot off if you try and put control under it. Best thing to do is just go for it. Make sure you've got a nice, simple, straight back as you're hitting it though. Never try and lean backwards because that is going to go skywards. It's hard to do when you're in the motion of play, I will say. But I think Anthony Gordon's got it there. Now, granted, in this situation, if we would have still had Richarlison, this formation would have been very different. It would have been more of a 4-3. It would have been a... How can I put it? It would have been more of a 3-2-3-2 sort of formation with Richarlison in, and it would have been Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin up top. But I think the situation we've got right now, this is probably the best case scenario for us. Now, granted, again, this is just my opinion purely. I'm just taking a shot in the dark at this one because I'm not a tactician. I'm not a manager. And when it comes to football, I'm average at best. But I think in a footballer mindset, over the past few years and watching Everton play over the years, I understand what is going on in the game in itself. So your defenders, your midfielders, your attackers, your defensive midfielders, your attacking midfielders, your wingers. I know all this sort of stuff, and I know that the Premier League has got so many different sorts of styles. You've got mixes of Spanish style, Italian style, German style. The English style itself is a hodgepodge of all different things. Quite frankly, there was another one as well. If Ross Barkley was to come back in, where would he fit there? Now, quite frankly, I would think he would take either Dele Alli or Decore. He would take one of their places as a fill-in. So let's say Dele Alli got injured, he was out for a couple of weeks. Barkley would come in there. He'd be more direct and he'd be very similar to how Abdoulaye Decore came. And if Decore was injured, same again. Come in and he creates like a bit of a dual sort of style in that midfield. Now, granted, this could cause an absolute headache for us because it's like, okay, Dele Alli's got his style, Decore's got his style. Neither of them have a similar style. This could cause a mesh issue. Now, also, just a very quick one. Tarkowski will get the captain's armband. That's plain and simple. He's new to the squad, granted, but watching him in the Finch Farm training, he's got the captain's mindset. He has definitely got a captain's mindset. He's telling defenders where to go. He's pointing the midfielders out. He's doing everything there, and he's brand new. Now, granted, that can come across in a negative aspect, but I think they were all taking it on board and understanding it. And that's what Frank Lampard wants. I believe when he was actually at Chelsea, he was actually after Tarkowski when he was worth a lot more. But I'm rambling. So how is this going to work out? So what I would say, in an attacking situation, so let's say for argument's sake, from the kickoff, we bring it back. What we need to do is we need to get these guys pushing up here, bringing it into the box for Calvert-Lewin or Anthony Gordon. Now, if they're a team that have got a really dense defence in that sort of situation, what you can do then is you can bring it inside to Decore or Dele Alli. Let them use their abilities to bring it through the middle. And if needs be, what you can do then is you can have these guys coming on around the side and they can come out to either one of them. So you're creating new angles of attack. It's a lot more difficult to try and stop someone moving when they're interlinking inside and out. Utilising the width of the pitch is vital in football. And to be honest, people were able to actually stumble us by not doing that. Because we were utilising the width almost too much. We were relying too heavily on having our Andros Townsend or Damari Gray, Anthony Gordon either side. Having them wide was almost a limiting factor. Now, granted, Damari Gray, he can fall in either side here, and you could probably even change up that sort of formation as well. So if you needed to, you could actually go to the wide sort of style. Now, with the 5 substitutions, that's where this all comes into it. So let's say, for argument's sake, we go in at half time. We're losing 1-0, and Frank Lampard can see the play style that's on the door, and he says, right, they are utilising our width way too much. So what we're going to do, Doucouré, you're coming off. Dele Alli, you're going to become the lone one. Gordon, you're going to go wide. Demarai Gray, you're coming on. You're going to go the other side of him. What we're going to do is, Vitaly Mykolenko, you're going to be the outlet for Anthony Gordon. Patterson, you're going to be outlet for Demarai Gray. Now, these two guys are going to try and utilise the width and cut inside, hopefully for Dele Alli to be on the edge of the box, or for just a nice simple cross to Calvert-Lewin. Because Calvert-Lewin has got the height to pretty much outstep any defender in the Premier League. It's very hard to close him down when he's pretty much up here to you while he's mid-air. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much my thoughts on things. I have been on a little bit of a ramble here. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Also, I'd like to say a huge thank you to all my Patreons over here. Now, if you want to be like any of these Patreons and become a part of the School of Science Superfan to get early access to the Bramley Moore content and ad-free content in general, why not go over to Patreon and become a part of the School of Science? Now, we have got two tiers there. We've got one tier being the cup of coffee tier. Now, granted, the cup of coffee tier hasn't got any perks or benefits. It's more of a, Luke, I like what you're doing, mate. Here's £1 to me, £1. Go get yourself a cup of coffee. That's essentially it. Whereas with the School Science Superfan, you get ad-free content, you get early access to the Bramley Moore project, and over a set course of time, you do actually get a School of Science sticker. Speaking of which, we have actually got School of Science stickers. Now, these ones are not of the logo, but these ones are going to be all over the show. So if you do see these, now, bear in mind, the QR code goes straight back to the YouTube channel. This is more for people who aren't really familiar. But if they do recognise like the Everton-esque sort of aspect about it, like the School of Science being an Everton sort of old nickname, if they recognise any of that, it gets them straight there. But if you see any of these, please send me some photos. I'm keen to see you guys actually interacting with them. So these are going to be in areas that are very important for football in general, important for Everton, and just important for the fans. So you're going to see these around these sorts of areas. So say, for example, Finch Farm, Goodison Park. Those are the sorts of areas that you're going to see them around the place, or even the Everton shops. So keep an eye out for them. If you do see them, don't forget to take a quick snap of them. Send them to me over Twitter and just say, hey, Luke, I found one of your things. That would mean the world to me, just for the fact that I can see that people are noticing them out there. But in any case, guys, I have talked your ear off for I do not know how long. I'm going to have a quick look now. Nearly half an hour. I have talked your ear off for nearly half an hour. I do apologise about that. But in any case, guys, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and I'm going to see you all in the next video. Peace.